Hello and welcome to Managing a Remote Workforce. We are going to talk about the work situation that a vast majority of us are dealing with right now. So when I first started this company many years ago, I worked from home. And while that's not a picture of me, that's kind of what my setup looked like. But today's work from home for a lot of us isn't quite the same. That it actually is a picture of me. And to my left is Digby practicing piano. To my right is my son Gus doing a virtual math class, and not pictured as my other son Milo taking a virtual PE class. My wife took the photo. It's a little bit different. We might have a lot of family members, we might have roommates. It's a very different environment. And I actually couldn't deal with this situation, so I moved to a separate location where I'm kind of sitting on the floor doing my work. It's not quite as ideal. Now, regardless of sort of whatever your situation is, there are a few tips that I think are going to be important for anyone who's working from home. You want to come alive with pressure. This is your time to shine. There's going to be some hiccups. It isn't a situation where everybody's got everything really quiet, tucked away, ready and happy to go. Deal with some of those hiccups. Recognize that they take their cues from you. That's a point I talk about a lot. And communication is so important. So when you think about it, work from home is in some ways almost like an oxymoron, especially for a guy like me who, when I worked in an office, you couldn't really work from home. It was very different in those days. You think home is where I enjoy myself or spend time away from work, and work isn't. So now we've merged these two, and I'm going to take that idea of an oxymoron. That's going to guide our agenda for what we talk about in this class. We're going to talk about having a very flexible structure. We'll discuss what in-person virtual communication means. We'll talk about how you can schedule some spontaneity and what realistic optimism really looks like. So very briefly, I think as it relates to structure, one of the best things that we can do is set clear expectations, making sure people understand what they need to do. And we do an exercise where people have to write down a couple expectations that they have about working from home. And then we talk about how sometimes those aren't necessarily as clear as they can be. So sometimes people say, I want you to communicate frequently or act professionally. The people that are working for you aren't mind readers, and they don't always know what it means. And we talk in much more detail about how we can set the clearest possible expectations we can and what it looks like to have some flexibility in those, given everyone's work arrangement. In-person virtual communication is the next thing we talk about, and we really discuss about having a good cadence. We think about it kind of like a football team. You got your big picture meeting at the beginning of the week. Every day you sort of meet with your particular unit on the team. And then if things aren't going well, you got a little bit of a timeout. But the key is we want to communicate. No news is bad news. All right. And it's important to have some more one-on-ones that you might normally do. We talk about doing them weekly, 20 to 30 minutes, talking about business issues, talking about personal issues as well. Schedule spontaneity. How do we bring back the water cooler talk that is absent in many ways? And then what is this idea of realistic optimism? We discuss this idea that they're taking their cues from you, right? You're the one who is leading them on this journey. And if you're kind of positive about stuff, not overly positive, but realistically positive, that can make a huge difference. We end all of our programs with practical, tangible tips, and we have people write down 3 things that they're going to commit to do moving forward. So there you have it, what it means to manage a remote workforce.